I'm going to go ahead and drop my screen share so we can hear from our two guests and learn who they are again and what they do with stall catchers. And you might have seen them before. They've actually been in several live events before, so I'm very grateful that they're so willing to come back on multiple occasions as needed. So, Pietro, you want to introduce yourself first?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Pietro Michelucci. I'm director at the Human Computation Institute, which is the organization that led the creation of stall catchers. We didn't do it alone. We worked with Cornell University, with UC Berkeley, with Princeton, and with other existing citizen science projects such as iWire and which is really cool, and Stardust at Home. So we're really standing on the shoulders of giants, with stall catchers. It was really a bunch of people coming together to create this. And so my background's cognitive science. I'm not so much a neuroscientist, but I study, the way I say it is, I don't really study the brain so much as I study the mind. I mean, it's hard to study one without studying the other, but I'm more about how people think and how systems think, and like how can we engineer systems, thinking systems that are distributed, that involve lots of people and maybe lots of machines and AI, for example. So stall catchers is kind of a simple version of one of these distributed thinking systems. I will let Maggie, my colleague, introduce herself.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Maggie Lane. I joined the Human Computation Institute almost 3 years ago. I was coming from a more of a medical background, not formally trained, but more in the cardiology side of things, and electricity in the heart, and patient care. So when I learned about what the Institute was doing with Alzheimer's research and making it possible for people to help in this research without a medical background, I was really inspired by the mission. So I guess that's me.
Awesome. Thank you both. I just learned new knowledge that I didn't realize. I didn't realize I didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. You mentioned iWire. We actually are meeting with iWire later in October to do a SciStarter Live. So I was curious if you could speak more to that, actually. If you how are you tied in with them? And for anyone who doesn't know what iWire is, because it is a little bit of a I feel like it's a niche project, but maybe just because I'm not super familiar with it at this point. But it involves the deciphering the mysteries of vision through brain related science. And they're also like a puzzle related game. Again, have not played it yet. I will do that soon though, so I'm prepared for my SciStarter Live about that. But Pietro, can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, and I mean, just to plug iWire, it's a really cool project, and as I mentioned, it predates stall catchers. Is now kind of getting a little long in the tooth, as they say. I mean, we launched. I mean, the project started. I mean, the idea for the project originated around 2013. We publicly mentioned it in 2014 for the first time, and then we launched the platform in 2016. So it's been around in one way or another for about 10 years now. iWire already existed, came out of Princeton, and Amy Robinson, or she has a new last name now, but she was really the kind of the community focused person. She's got a TED Talk, which is really cool. So if you want to look up Amy Robinson, excuse me, Amy Robinson on TED Talk, that talks about the project. Um, and they have, if you're like a technophile, if you like to really geek out, their interface is very 3D and modern looking, and you're basically going in, they're trying to map the retinal connectome, which is basically the neural wiring of the eye. And like right after light comes into the eye, it starts to get processed.
Mhm.
And the retinal connectome is actually considered part of the brain. So it's really figuring out the wiring of the very early visual part of the brain, so we can better understand how all that works. So you click and you're actually looking at neurons, which is a much higher level of magnification than you see in stall catchers. So I don't know. I could go on for a while about it, but it's a very cool project, and I encourage you to check it out.
Or have you been involved in any of it, or just like in similar circles of working in similar fields.
Right. So the connection to stall catchers is that when we were trying to come up with a way to speed up, this kind of capillary analysis in stall catchers. So we're really trying to look at capillaries in a mouse brain. So you have a mouse that has Alzheimer's disease, and we're trying to see, is there a higher level of capillary stalling where the blood flow is blocked compared to healthy mice? And the only way to really do that, to really be sure about it, is to go through and image the mouse brain through layers of brain tissue. And then somebody has to go in and manually look at every individual capillary and analyze it to see if blood is flowing through it or not. So we wanted to come up with a crowdsourcing citizen science way to do this analysis. And I remember two projects, iWire and Stardust at Home. And I thought, if we combine these two things, then we can build stall catchers. And so the iWire part was really about mapping the network of capillaries, so the vascular network in the mouse brain. And we didn't have an automated way to do that. So we thought, well, we can do something like iWire is doing. We can just, show this 3D view and then get help from volunteers to map out this network. Once we map it out, then we can find all the individual capillary segments. So a capillary is defined as, it's the smallest kind of blood vessel in the brain, and it connects two other vessels. So that's a capillary segment. So we wanted to go through and have a way to find all those things. Well, eventually, iWire folks had done so well getting human-based data, volunteer data, that they were able to use those data to create an algorithm that automates a lot of that network analysis for the retinal connectome. So then we sent one of our lab scientists to go spend a week with them in Princeton, figure out how that algorithm worked, came back, and now we just automated that part. So we never ended up actually directly creating an iWire component to stall catchers because we had this algorithm. So, but without that algorithm and without iWire, we'd be kind of stuck.
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine stall catchers without that, but I think I struggle to fully grasp how it would impact it in totality.
we wouldn't know we wouldn't know where each capillary segment was and how it was connected to all the other capillary segments. It would be hard to kind of like isolate each one of those things.
Gotcha.
So
does that have anything to do with like how you highlight the
right.
Okay, yes. I've always people ask, like, how are they highlighted? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, so we draw an outline, around the capillary segment that people are annotating, and that outline is automatically generated by this, part of this cool algorithm that came from Princeton.
Wow, okay. This is incredibly helpful for all the we work with for anyone who doesn't know, SciStarter does corporate social responsibility work with organizations including Verizon, and Verizon loves stall catchers. They're like the most frequent users of stall catchers as far as I know on the SciStarter impact side. And so they're awesome. But they often ask these really probing questions that are related to like who writes the highlight? Is that done by hand or is that done by computer, and how? So now I can send them to this video later. You're like, here, learn, learn. Something else, and before just for anyone else listening, we're gonna play some stall catchers too, so you'll have a chance to learn or relearn how to play it and get some instructions on what to do. We also have a leaderboard going on for the entire month just to see how much is done within a month, and especially September, which is Alzheimer's Awareness Month. But before we get to that, I did have another question that was related to AI. We've had conversations with a lot of people either in the Verizon groups doing stall catchers or even in consideration with like different educational sectors. So like classrooms will often want to teach about AI. And so I was curious about like what you recommend from the perspective of stall catchers, what it can teach us about AI and machine learning, if you have any thoughts on that or what you would share with classrooms who are intrigued by that.
Yeah. How much time do I have?
Well, no. Up to you, as long as it's within reason of understandable.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. Sort of. So a few different things to say about that. So you probably, if you're into AI, you've probably heard of machine learning. And machine learning is where you train a classifier, that is an algorithm that can look at something, can take an input and decide if it's one thing or another thing. So for example, is this vessel flowing or is it stalled? And and you can have, multiple choices too. Um, and so, before we came up with stall catchers, the Schaefer Nishimura lab did try to use machine learning to solve this problem of, deciding whether a vessel was flowing or stalled. And they to so these machine learning algorithms are modeled on the neural networks of the human brain. It's like basically an empty network that hasn't been taught anything yet. So you need a training set. So
Mhm.
they had a limited amount of data from the people in their lab who was marking these capillaries as flowing or stalled. They put that into the machine learning algorithm. They trained it.
Mhm.
End of that training, it could classify vessels, but only with about 85% accuracy. And the lab needed like 99% accuracy for their research questions. So that was the motivation to build stall catchers, and just kind of to cut to the chase on that is after with stall catchers, volunteers who over the years have produced literally millions of these annotations. We went back and did a machine learning challenge where we had 900 competitors building machine learning algorithms to see who could do the best, using this new corpus of training data. And they got up to like 92%. So much, much better than before. And we even tried something brand new, which is we took a machine learning algorithm and we let it play stall catchers along with other human players. It would be on the leaderboard.
Mhm.
And just like any human player, it wasn't 100% accurate, but we could combine its answer with human answers just to see how does that work out. And it
Mhm.
turns out it works out really well. So I think in the near future, you're going to see these little bots playing stall catchers alongside humans. Um,
Be labeled as bots, like in the leaderboard.
yeah, we put a little bot icon next to its name. So
Oh.
usually the creator of the machine learning algorithm names their own bots. So when we did this study, the bot was named Gaia by its creator, Laura Onak, who actually joined our team.
Nice.
And so yeah, so Gaia, kicked butt on stall catchers, did really well, and to the point that there were some of our, very like our super catchers, our high powered catchers who, commented that it seemed a little unfair because Gaia could play 24/7. Gaia didn't need sleep, so there's this unfair advantage, which is true, which is
Yeah.
true. Um, so it's interesting, there's always the social aspect of what happens when you start mixing machines in with humans. And now today we're obviously seeing that happen in new ways. So it's
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
kind of
Just
exciting.
the history of it all is like a good way to conceptualize AI and machine learning for
Mhm.
others too. Like that whole story is, I mean, I don't consider myself to be an AI
Mm.
well knowledgeable about AI and machine learning. And so knowing the history of something like this, where we're not dealing with it in real time either, like it's not quite there yet. Like seeing how it's developed is really interesting
Yeah,
and very cool. So
right,
yeah.
right. And I think what you say about the real time aspect is important, because ideally what we would have in these systems is a feedback loop. So as humans are volunteering their time and doing more annotations, that's immediately teaching a machine learning algorithm so that these bots that are playing would be getting better on a daily basis. Today, it's all kind of like everything is separated. So we collect a million more samples, then we go back and we train them again, and then we put new bots in. We'd like this to be a continuous evolving process. And there's no technical barrier to doing that. We just have to do it. It just takes, time. The other thing to mention, and then I'll stop about AI, is that there's this question of why are the humans better at this task than machines?
Yeah.
And um, and so, believe it or not, humans are not obsolete yet. We actually There are things we can do better than AI and machines. And so, one of the things that comes up in stall catchers, for anyone who's played a while, you've probably encountered vessels where it just looks like a solid white line. It's like washed out. They're overexposed, and so you can't tell if there's flow or if there's not flow in the vessel. It's just white. But sometimes you can see what's happening in the vessels that are attached to the vessel. So if you have one vessel that's vertical and and it's connecting two horizontal vessels, and you see that there's blood flow kind of coming in from one side and then coming out the other side at the bottom, then anyone who's played with a garden hose as a child knows that the only way water can be coming out down here is if water is going in at the top, which implies that there's flow. And
Right.
this is just based on our experience of living in the physical world. And children learn this right away, early on. But the machine learning model is just learning based on the pixels. So it can't, if it doesn't see the pixels flowing in the vessel, it doesn't have this ability to do inference to say logically, if this is happening and this is happening, then there must be blood flowing through this capillary. Could we build an inference engine on top of the machine learning, to make a more enhanced AI? Yeah, we could actually. And some people are experimenting with stuff like that.
We need AI to go through childhood in order to understand what's happening.
Well,
That's
someone has to teach it the rules, right? And until we have, robots in the world, and I heard about this company X1 now, so this is interesting, that has learning robots. But until we have robots that can be agents in the world and can have experiential learning, then we're still reliant on humans to provide this kind of guidance.
right, absolutely. I hope we always need humans to provide that kind of guidance. I think it's kind of scary to think about learning robots where it's like, oh, you don't need our help to understand us. You don't, it kind of teaches a weird lesson of, I don't need to talk to you to learn, or like, you don't need to talk to me to learn. I'll just like be in the corner here and learn from you. So I don't know, maybe I'm doomsdaying my AI thoughts right now.
It's nice to feel needed and have
Yeah.
purpose. So I think at least for a while we're okay.
We're okay. Sweet. Well, I appreciate the reassurance there. I have one more question in the general scheme of stall catchers before I show off my stall catching skills, which are medium, I'm going to go with. So my last question is about outcomes and what we know right now, or anything that's new that's happening right now. Either if do you have any updates on like what the current data set is, how it's being evaluated? I think it was at 100% last time I checked, but I'm not sure how close that comes from when you work on it afterwards. Yeah, anything like newer outcomes that are coming out in the blog or otherwise, yeah.
Yeah, well, actually, one of the things we're doing right now is we are reevaluating the stall catcher's data quality. When we did the bot study, um, we replicated an old data set. What we wanted to do is we had an old data set where it was only humans analyzing the data. Then we had a new data set that had 3 bots in the mix. So our question was, how good is the analysis when the bots are participating among the humans? So we did the comparison and we saw, okay, if it's just the humans, it's about the same. If it's just the bots, it's a little worse. But when the bots and the humans are working together, it's actually better than the humans only. So the hybrid crowds, when we have like 3 bots and 3 humans answering and we combine their answers together, it's actually the best answer, maybe because bots and humans kind of like they see it differently. And that's
Mhm.
where the wisdom of crowd comes from, is this diversity of perspectives. Um, but one of the things that we noticed is when we looked at the new data is that there was a shift in the response bias. So there are 2 things when you're responding to, the data. And there are different kinds of errors that you can get. And so like one person who has 70% accuracy might always make the mistake of calling a stall flowing. All their mistakes are this kind of false positive, whereas someone else might always, no, that was a false negative. Sorry. Someone else might always call a flowing stalled. That's the only kind of mistake they make. And what we saw was this massive shift from one kind of error to another kind of error. And this concerned us because, you know, why would, the population of volunteers suddenly have a very different kind of bias than we've seen all along? So we don't know. Maybe it is just different people have different biases, but we just want to we're replicating some additional data sets with human only volunteers so that we can make absolutely sure that we can trust the data coming out of stall catchers, because obviously this is used to support research findings that then get published in top tier journals. So we need this to be something that's not only accurate, but it can be replicated. that said, and I'll just say this last part quickly, some of the most recent data sets getting analyzed in stall catchers are looking at drug candidates. So, these are still mouse-based studies, but they're taking FDA drugs that have been approved to treat other diseases such as cancer, but that have properties that are believed to reduce the capillary stalling. So then they're giving, the Alzheimer's mice these cancer drugs that are already approved for humans, and they're noticing, oh, there is a little bit of a reduction in the stalling. And sometimes, and different drugs work on both ends. So some of them prevent stalls from occurring in the first place, and others make the stalls go away after they're already there. So they're tackling it from both ends. They're finding candidates. They're not super strong effects, but there is some effect. So it's kind of like, ooh, this is tantalizing. Like, are we getting close to something? And if it is already FDA approved, it means the pipeline is much faster, so that if it did go to clinical trials or drug development, it wouldn't have to take nearly as long. And then there's off-label use of drugs too. So
Right. That is also really exciting to be aware of, like, oh, this is a data set being looked at, or like I know that a medicine is being tested right now, and so what I'm looking at is directly impacting that. So for anyone who's like, I don't know if this is like actually doing anything, it is. It is. As you keep working on it. The question, I had a follow-up question to that actually, because I didn't realize, I don't think I've ever thought to ask this before, but because are so many different research entities looking into Alzheimer's, it's such a like impactful disease, and there are so many people working on it. It does make me wonder about like the combined, or like to what extent is from my, I'll say, limited knowledge of how Alzheimer's works in general, the stalls versus different types of symptoms or things that happen with Alzheimer's is everything we're doing through stall catchers also meant to be kind of in conjunction with other types of research that's looking at other symptoms and issues within Alzheimer's? Because we're looking at one section, but it's not the full story of what Alzheimer's looks like, to my understanding.
yeah, no, that's 100% true. So yeah, so the short answer is yes.
Yes. Thank you.
So yeah, the Schaefer Nishimura lab is looking at capillary stalling at brain blood flow in general, and its implications for the development and progression and prospective treatment of Alzheimer's disease. They've seen in some of their mouse studies that when they can restore brain blood flow in a mouse that's had cognitive issues, that restoring that blood flow, restores memories and other cognitive abilities that previously were a problem. To me, what's most interesting about the memory restoration is that it implies the memories were still there. I mean, you can't restore something that isn't there. So it makes me wonder about the implications for humans with Alzheimer's. And I think over a long period of time, there is degradation, and then maybe those old memories start to actually degrade at a fundamental physical level. But at first, it's more about being able to access them. And so to me, that's very exciting, the idea that someone who's in early stages of Alzheimer's still has the memories. We just need to kind of like somehow fix the part that allows them to be retrieved. And this brain blood flow aspect seems to be maybe one avenue to that.
Yeah.
We are working with lots of other universities who are doing Alzheimer's or dementia related research. Small vessel, which is also called white matter disease, at Pittsburgh. We're working with folks out at UC Davis who are looking at amyloid beta, and these hallmark proteins that you find in the brains of Alzheimer's patients, and the tau tangles, they're called. And so we're actually building citizen science projects. We have one in beta testing right now, or actually alpha testing, but it's ironically called beta catchers because of the beta amyloid. And yeah, we could give a link if people want to try that. It's again, it's still kind of early stage. But each one of these, and then actually I just heard a talk yesterday or the day before of somebody who's looking at sex differences in humans, and how there are these changes in menopausal women that impact brain function. So there's this acronym VCID, if I'm remembering right, vascular contributors to dementia. I don't know, maybe I need one of these drugs. I can't remember the exact acronym, um, but the idea is basically, that they're not specifically looking at Alzheimer's, but just any aspect of blood flow that's causing cognitive issues. And so the more we learn about each of these different types of dementia, including Parkinson's dementia, the more we realize that they're all linked together, and the underlying mechanisms, the causal mechanisms, the etiology, as they call it, are all related. So if we find a puzzle piece here, it actually helps over here. And because we're working with all these different biomedical researchers, we're sometimes in a very interesting position of saying, hey, did you guys hear about what these other guys are doing? Because this sounds like related, and you guys maybe should be talking to each other. And that has sometimes led to interesting conversations that help advance the research, just kind of like bridging, awareness among different researchers who are looking at the same disease from different angles.
Right. It's another version of why crowdsourcing works, is the idea of enough people know about something, people will make connections. And so if all the different researchers are making separate connections, they all are talking to each other eventually, and they're like, light bulb moment, we can work together on XYZ, or I think we have a point to prove here, of something happening. So that's exciting to know that it's all like a vast enough network of people, and that it's active and talking to each other. Because I think that I don't know, the public doesn't get to know that, or like they don't realize that they work together, or think sometimes that they don't, and so, or that there's only one study happening ever.
Yeah.
No.
And how would you know?
No.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Well, I have threatened you enough with questions, and it's after the 30-minute mark, so I already like removed my my note from the beginning of this, but that's okay. So because I'm enjoying this conversation so much, I will keep my next part fairly short for anyone who is thinking, yeah, this sounds awesome, I want to do more stall catchers, I think that's a great idea. These are the general steps from the SciStarter perspective. If you already play stall catchers, you can go straight there, obviously. You can also go straight there if you have no interest in joining SciStarter, although if you're at SciStarter Live, I find that shocking. So I will drop this link in the chat for you, which I think was sent earlier as well. Yes, so the page on SciStarter is the scistarter.org/stallcatchers by Eyes on Alls. And then there are only 2 steps really. You get there, you hit visit, and it will send you to the website for stall catchers. And then you can hit join now to sign up, or you can log in to get started. So I have a login already. If you do have a SciStarter account, by the way, it is a SciStarter affiliate, and so you can use the same email that you use in your SciStarter account. So mine, for example, being one email, I use the same one for stall catchers, and then they link. So I get to know how often I participate over time, and get to see when I'm the most active on stall catchers by looking at my dashboard on SciStarter. So pretty fun to track how awesome one can be. Or like just to see which ones are your favorite projects and how much impact you can make. So I'll go ahead and actually stop my share briefly. I'll switch it back because I'm on the wrong screen. There we go. I'm going to go to stall catchers and show off my skills. I find that every time I play, I don't know if you two feel this way or how often you play. Actually, that's a fun question to know, the actual creators and people who work on the project. How often do you actually play? It's a trick question that no one will want to answer. I mean, to be fair, to preface for anyone who is thinking, oh my gosh, wait, this happens. When you work on a citizen science project, or you work on citizen science writ large to tell people about it, the time you have to actually do the said project is very different. So I personally use this SciStarter Live time as a selfish excuse for me to do more citizen science, because I don't get to do it regularly. So, okay, I'll preface with that to admit that I don't do enough citizen science before you come up with your answer. Oh, you're muted still.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I would say for me, it's like, yeah, probably at least once a week. Often I'll go in, I'll see that there are people asking questions or comments, and I'll go in to respond to people in the live chat. And then while I'm there, I'll just take the opportunity to do a little catching. If I see that, like, occasionally, sometimes the leaderboard is just full up with so many points I don't have a prayer. But if I notice that like the 9th or 10th place position is very low points, I'll try to just get on the leaderboard before I leave.
For like the day, I assume, like you're just trying to pass up on.
Just the daily leaderboard. Yeah, I mean, as soon as I leave, somebody will pass me, but it's just kind of like fun to see your name blip up there and be like, okay, like at least I did enough to get on the leaderboard.
It's like a threshold to meet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nagy, do you play often?
It varies. Probably not once a week. I would say it. October is a busy month for us, so probably that's the month that I play the most. But yeah, I'd say at least like once a month. But yeah, definitely not weekly.
Wait, why is October a busy month?
Yeah, it's just one of our more like high traffic times.
Oh, just for like no particular reason that we know of?
Yeah,
We have a lot of organizations that want to do events during October
Huh.
and in the fall. And in
Yeah.
fact, I don't know, we have like Girl Scouts overseas. So I'm sure we have a Girl Scouts patch, which we're so excited
Yes.
about. So Girl Scouts overseas does the thing around this time of year, and it includes USA Girl Scouts too, but it's just like they started their thing to like do something for their international community of scouts. And what's cool is if you go on, if you are a Girl Scout and you go into Stall Catchers, there's a place in your profile where you can check a box and say I'm a Girl Scout, and once it tracks your progress, and once you have 100 minutes of time in Stall Catchers, then you get a link to get your patch. And what's so cool about the patch is that it's subsidized by the Mike Caprero's scholarship, because he's one of our super catchers, and he's donated more than once to the project. And so we earmark his donations with his consent and endorsement for the purpose of paying for these patches and to ship them to the Girl Scouts who complete it. And it's really cool because he and his family have been involved in Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, and so on. So he's very supportive of that. So it's just super nice that he does that, and a great opportunity for the Scouts.
Yeah, that's awesome. Mike Caparo is like a superstar volunteer on all things Stall Catchers. I think I recently watched your guys' tours videos, the tour through the lab, and how he was invited to go through that, and it was very entertaining to see, and definitely like a fun family type. Like even though it was during COVID and everyone was wearing masks during the videos, like this is still very, like you can tell how familiar and how like just happy to be there everyone is, and interested in talking about these things. So you guys have a really fun community within your network. Of course my internet decided not to work. Uh-oh. It honestly is probably my I've had issues recently, so I'm not sure why that's not, unless I'm, oh, no data, just kidding. Verizon has not decided to play today. That's what I've learned just now. Okay, so I will change my team. Are you guys on a team? Or you just play freestyle?
Yeah, I'll switch around sometimes. Yeah, if there's like an event going on, and I'll just join the event team, and sometimes just to demonstrate how to join a team and that kind of thing. But yeah, usually Humanity, that's the default team. If you sign up on Stall Catchers and you don't have a team, you default to Team Humanity, because we're all part of Team Humanity.
A great name for a team too. I'm gonna join that one. Sorry, SciStarter team. Feel a little bit better now.
Team's good too. We've been on SciStarter team as well sometimes.
You move around. I feel like it is nice to move around. Every time I do events with the Verizon folks, I switch around to their teams within an event just to be like, oh no, they need more help, and then I'll join theirs. And because I've been see, this is where my Wi-Fi is having an issue, where they'll get really competitive, and so I do that mostly just so that one group doesn't completely fall out of the loop, and they seem to appreciate it, hopefully. And now I'm looking at the today's list too, which is fun to know. And there are currently no bots in here, right? So I'm not going to see any bot markers in leaderboards, right?
That's correct.
Okay, gotcha. But we do have, if anyone is interested in seeing a leaderboard throughout the entire month, if I go back to the Stall Catchers page on SciStarter, I dropped the link at the very top of it. So track your progress on the leaderboard. to be fair, tracking your progress on the leaderboard is a bit of a pipe dream for me, simply because the top catchers are at these scores. So I'm probably not going to make it on there, but I'm excited to see a retiree group is a team that's top research vessels, and the Verizon squad's on there. Hooray. And SciStarter made it. I'm a little surprised. I need to figure out who's the most common ones on there. Yeah, so there's, oh, team scores. Yeah, all Verizon squad, not too shabby. And then it kicked off. SciStarter got kicked off, but that's okay. That'll be okay. We'll be okay. And that link I'll drop in the chat too, just so I can remember to send it later. If I can find the chat. Okay, so I won't spend too much time on here because if you are listening to this, you're probably already familiar with SciStarter, or excuse me, stall catchers. Ooh, cool, 2000. But I did want to be coached by the experts to see how good I am at this and talk through my constant if anyone ever feels panic about like, wait, I'm not sure, I don't know what to hit, that feeling. I always tell people like, go with your gut, but then I don't follow my own advice half the time. So I will narrate my gut. This looks fine to me. There looks weird, but I'm gonna go with flowing. Is that how you all look at these? You go through the, do you ever have the panic mode? Oh wait, we don't even get to know. That's right. Oh, actually, a question about that. So when we don't have the answer yet, so it's a check back later, but it's at 100% data set verified. When do we know it's, like 100% data set verified, I'm assuming is like a lower threshold, then more people can come on and it will actually be verified. Or like they'll be able to assign points to it. Is it like the difference between points being assigned?
So once the data set is 100% verified, that means that it meets our minimum threshold for ensuring a certain level of data quality.
Okay.
If people continue to annotate the data set, we record all the new annotations and it improves the data quality beyond our minimum threshold. So, if we leave the same data set on for weeks after it gets to 100%, then when the researchers at the lab get it, then they have a higher level of confidence and certainty, and they frankly don't have to look at as many vessels themselves to know that they have a high quality analysis. So we obviously the reason we came up with this threshold is because we don't want to spend a lot of time on one data set and not be analyzing the next one in the pipeline if we don't have to. But sometimes, because stall catchers has been so successful and people are annotating so fast, the lab literally isn't ready with a new data set by the time the current one gets analyzed. So we end up with better quality analysis, and then we're ready to go for the next one. My understanding is that we're actually going to have a lot more data soon. So
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know this current data set it wasn't too long ago that it was even added. I remember when we were chatting about it. So that's really awesome. It'll be good. It's always fun to see when it's not 100% to be like, oh, we're on our way up there, or like trying to get there. But I mean, I make sure to remind people when I do talk to them about how it's like, well, it's verified, but like it still is incredibly helpful to play regardless while that is at 100%. So I'm glad that I have more context. This looks fine to me. I'm not getting any. Roland, I don't know if you're watching my screen, but if you have opinions, feel free to shout it out too. Okay. Is this how, I mean, as far as tips and tricks, oh yeah, Roland agreed that it was flowing. Maybe I should just poll everyone in this team before I choose things. We can use the power of the crowd via my only one answer. I feel like I've seen. All right, I personally think this is flowing. What do the experts say?
Yeah, I would agree with you. Yeah. But then
Nice.
again,
Oh.
like my accuracy isn't the best on this.
I'm so happy to hear that from people. I've heard that from a couple project scientists being like, yeah, it's on Zooniverse because I make mistakes too. Like we need to, like, yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. It's refreshing. Maggie, you agreed, right? Oh yeah, over 1,000 points. Woohoo. Oh, oops.
Well, and it's interesting because sometimes when you say there's a ground truth data set, it's kind of like these are the actual true answers. For stall catchers, we don't have a ground truth. It's really, I mean, we don't have the technology to know 100% of the time what's flowing or stalled, even if we took the time to meticulously look at that. So when
Yeah.
they were analyzing them in the lab, they would have 3 different lab technicians do the analysis, and then if there was disagreement among them, they would sit down and discuss the vessels where they disagreed. But even in that case, we don't call it a ground truth. We call it a gold standard. It's like, it's the best answer we have. We can't say 100% that it's correct, but it's the best answer we have. And so, when we start off with stalk catchers and we analyzed the first data set and we showed the lab, they said, this isn't completely in agreement with our lab experts. So we said, oh, okay, well, let's look at the ones where there's disagreement between the stalk catchers volunteers, our crowd answers, and your experts. So we went in, we hung out with them in the lab, and we looked at each one of these points of disagreement. And what we realized is that the crowd agreed more with each individual expert on average than the experts agreed with each other. So
Oh.
for us, that's a benchmark of success. It's like, if the crowd agrees more with the experts than they agree with each other, then it feels like we're doing something right. And at that point, the lab also agreed with us. Yes, this is good enough.
Yeah, that's funny that it happened that way. In the case of something like this, if this were to appear on the in the lab text looking at this, it doesn't look like a vessel. So I struggle to explain what people are looking at for this one, just because it looks like a giant blob. It doesn't look like anything is a problem here. Like I would probably say flowing, but it doesn't mean I understand that I'm actually looking if
Yeah.
it's
So first of all, because it's a round shape,
yeah.
it looks like it's the cross section of a vertical vessel. So there's a vessel and we're looking straight down at it vertically. And
Oh,
because it's so big, it looks like it's not a capillary. It might be an arterial or venule, which are,
oh.
you know, larger vessels. They don't tend to stall. If an arterial or venule stalled, we'd probably call that a stroke.
Ah,
Um,
yeah.
so, so yeah, something that size that looks like that, I would say it's a vertically oriented, larger vessel and very unlikely to be stalled.
Right.
Um,
So even like
and
a mhm.
and frankly, I would flag something like this. So there's that little flag down there. You still get to answer, but the flag, alerts the researchers
Yeah.
that this might not be an actual capillary. You might not want to count this toward your flowing or stalled count here because it really doesn't fit the capillary model. And then they can take that information, they can look at it, they can try to figure out, why did we put a circle around this? Why is our algorithm marking this?
Right.
And then actually make the algorithm, do better next time around. And the current approach in the lab to reduce the number of things that look like this is they actually hired undergraduates to help with the pre-processing of the data, to just take entire regions of the image stacks that are problematic like this and exclude them from the analysis.
Hmm. And sometimes things like this get missed, but hopefully not very many at that point. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
That's good to know. I will definitely flag those when I see them because that's happened a couple times in my memory where I'm like, doesn't look worrisome, but also not sure if it's a capillary. That's good to know. Ooh, this looks problematic.
Hmm.
I feel like there might be something going on.
Hmm.
Oh, wait.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah, it's a subtle one. It's subtle, but yeah, I mean, I don't want to steer you the wrong way, but I think I'm also leaning towards there being a stall there, but I don't know.
Maggie, what are your thoughts?
I would say so. Well, because it gets very narrow in there.
Yeah. I've seen stalls that are like marked as stalls and like approved as stalls officially, that are like on the edge of a vessel where I'm like, wait a second, how can you even tell sometimes? Like stalls can appear but be at the corner of it, like it looks like it's still flowing but still stuck. And so those trip me up too when that does happen because I'm not sure if that's it's only ever happened once. I just will always remember it. So I it's like why is this only on the side? And so for this, if it's getting narrow, is being narrow enough for it to be stalled? Like right there. So it looks narrow, but may not be stuck.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. It looks like,
Mhm.
but I think earlier, down near the bottom
Oh,
of the
yeah,
vessel.
this
I might
section.
so, yeah, yeah.
Does that part ever get filled in?
Yeah, that one looks more problematic to me than.
Mhm.
Although it looks like it gets covered, but there's a section that might not be covered, by the
I
way.
think I would label it a stall also because I don't see a lot of flow. So sometimes a way to say, is it really flowing is, can I tell which, if it is flowing, which direction it's flowing? And from this
Oh,
one, I
sure.
wouldn't be able to really say it's going a particular direction.
Yeah, it's got a lot going in a weird way. Okay, so I'll hit stalled and then go with that first thing we saw.
Oh boy, I hope I didn't tell you.
You're just gonna ruin my chances of getting on a leaderboard, but that's okay. Hey!
Yeah.
Wow. Wait, okay, so people did see something at the top though. That is really okay.
Yeah, right.
Wow. Okay, so two stalls. Huh. I feel like I never catch the ones that are actually tricky like this, so it helped to be in a communal environment for this one. Oh wow, it's been looked at a lot though. That's kind of funny. Okay, this is just a tough one. Wow,
Right.
cool.
It's one of
All right,
those
I'll do two
vessels.
more and I'll close this out because hopefully everyone knows how to play stall cutters now that they're witnessing. I didn't go through the tour, but I assume everyone who just joined, they'd see the tour, so they'd be directed. This is more fun anyway to see the harder ones so they can see what they're getting themselves into.
Right.
Mm. The flow looks weird to me. It's going in two different directions. I mean, it looks fine. I don't know. That's worrisome, but it's also just looks like it's going this way and then deciding to go a different way.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I don't know. Any thoughts on this one from the peanut gallery?
Can you go back and forth on that spot a little?
Yeah.
That does look suspect, but
Hmm.
I'm seeing two, I think I see two vessels next to each other, and one
Uh,
is stalled and the other one doesn't. So I would mark the stall on that lower one if it were me.
that right
But
here.
yeah, but I think this is a research vessel. I don't think you're going to get a correct or incorrect on this. So I would at least want to alert the researchers that this could be a stall.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good answer to a question I should ask. Like best case answer when you're really not sure, but it's like looks very like it's better to mark stalled than just mark flowing.
It's a tricky question because this gets back to that issue I mentioned earlier, where we're seeing that when we do analyses today, we're seeing more of a bias toward
Mhm.
answering one way than the other when you're uncertain. So I would say if you're really on the fence, like you really aren't sure, I think it's better for the research to err on the side of stall.
Okay. That is really good to know. Because if that is, I can see how that would turn into the bias. Like I would absolutely call myself out on saying, if I'm not sure, but it looks like I wasn't hit with the sudden need of like something looks off, then I would usually put flowing. But
Mm,
on a case like this where it just looks funky from the get-go, not necessarily that I'm like, I think there's a stall there, but it just looks funky. Um,
right,
maybe that's when I would
right.
avoid my bias only going to flowing, which it's interesting. I think we were probably the only ones who put stalled. So I'm curious.
Yeah,
Uh, although there's two spots though, so I don't. Mine is probably just not listed yet. Um,
interesting. Yeah. Hmm.
we'll find out. Actually, we will. I mean, we will, but I won't get to know which one it was. Sadly. All right, last one.
And
Let's go.
that's an interesting point. So
Mm.
sometimes people might be curious to see like when they got an answer correct or
Mhm.
incorrect, to be able to go back and look at the vessel
Oh yeah.
when they're redeeming. And we've talked about like giving people a library of all the vessels they've annotated so they can go back, re-examine the ones they got right or didn't get right, uh,
Hmm.
for learning purposes.
Yeah, I wonder if that's like information that you could use to research whether or not people are like learning from being able to see the library. I feel like that would be a worthwhile like
Yeah.
not showing it to us made me think also the concept that maybe it just really doesn't matter for quality assurance. But if you do go back and learn from it,
Uh-huh.
does that impact your game?
Yeah.
I don't.
I think that's a really good question.
All right, grant funding. Uh, set it. I will send this to YouTube and someone will hear us. Um, I feel like this has a bunch of problematic areas. What is
Yeah, it
that?
kind of looks that way.
All right. I will put it there, but I think there were a couple spots that were iffy. Yes. I love this is my favorite part about teaching people how to do this. I get absurd amounts of points when I'm right. And they're all like, why did I only get 20 points? And I'm like, that's because you haven't been playing long enough. And yet I'm the one who will make other people play for me so I can give them the opportunity of playing it before they sign up and whatnot. And so they're the ones who got me to this score and ranking. But that's only between us and the internet. So hooray. And now I have 3 redeemed, got another 3,000, and I'm going to pause there because we are at the hour. I'm shocked. Actually, I shouldn't be shocked. We always have really lovely conversations, the three of us, and so I don't really think it's not a bad thing. So thank you both for being here. Are there any questions from the peanut gallery, or anything from Facebook too before we close out, or any last thoughts that you would both like to share about how excited you are for October or
Well, yeah, so I mean,
oh,
one exciting bit of news is, I mentioned these machine learning models,
mhm,
and Microsoft does an annual hackathon, like a kind of hack for good. And a couple of people in Singapore got the idea, hey, what if we took some of our best AI researchers and had them give it a shot and see if they could make a machine learning model that does even better than the best one from that other competition from a couple of years ago. And so they're doing it. They've latched on to that, and there's a guy in Croatia
mhm,
named Andrea who really knows his stuff, and he's building on the work from that previous competition. And I guess it's a close knit community among the elites who do these machine learning competitions. They know each other. He
yeah.
looked at the top 10 of the leaderboard. He said, "Oh yeah, I know him. I know her." So
Huh,
and reach out to them and say, hey, I'm doing this, I'm not competing with you, I'm doing this for a hackathon. He can like actually hear from them about what their approach was and then
yeah,
build on their work. And what he showed me looks better than anything we've seen so far. So it just
sweet.
getting better. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about progress, keeping it moving and making it better. So that's awesome. I'm excited to see how it impacts the game if we were able to, I don't know, if it moves it quicker, I guess would be the hope, I would assume.
Yeah, I think the idea is that, if we eventually get to, and we will, to the where we have a machine that can annotate the data well enough. Um,
Mhm.
the idea now is to say, if the machine can tell us with very good confidence whether it believes in its own answer, then, and we see that when it does say, yes, I'm 100% sure about this, or 99% sure about this, that it is a very high quality answer, then all those vessels get annotated by the machine, and then the only ones left are the ones that the machine doesn't feel confident about, and then we're showing those to the human volunteers, and that greatly reduces the amount, and speeds up the analysis. But it
Yeah,
means that it's harder. It means the machines don't know how to do it, so it needs human eyes on it.
right. Yeah, so we're only going to get the tough ones.
Yep.
Well, you can always fit in the ones that were confident, and so you like help you. It's like training videos in the middle of it, right, where you can automatically give the answer pretty quickly. So I could see that being a shorter data set, but also filtering in those that we can get the oh
Right.
yeah, we're doing it right.
Oh yeah,
The
yeah. We can
computer.
collect more. We can collect, answers from a larger number of people for each vessel, um,
Yeah,
for these more difficult vessels. And, again, it takes the pressure off each individual person with the whole wisdom of crowds effect. If I'm wrong this time, there are enough other people who are right that it'll wash it out, and vice versa. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Rest assured, if you make an error, it's no big deal with stalk catches. It's a group project where there's not one person who's just not doing the work because those are rare in citizen science. I'm going to close this out. It's actually at the hour, so I apologize. I'm gonna run a little bit over just to talk through these things. But Pietro, Maggie, thank you so much for joining me for the full hour too. I appreciate the chat. I learned so much that I'm gonna bring back to all my uh groups of Verizon and other people who learn from us at SciStarter. So I appreciate the refresh all the knowledge too. So, and you're welcome back anytime, of course. So
Thank you. Thanks for
Thank
your great
you.
hosting and great questions too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, thank you for being willing to answer them. And I hope October is like smooth sailing, even if it is super busy in general. So hopefully it's a good, productive type of busy. And for anyone who wants to do more citizen science in the next couple weeks, we're talking about bats on October 1st. We're doing Wrangling the Cosmos with Redshift Wrangler, a NASA project on October 8th. And then we're going to talk about iWire. So that's when we're going to be back with iWire if you want to sit or listen to that one too on October 15th, which will be great. And on our blog, we have all the information. So we look forward to seeing more people join us for those and utilizing our resources as needed, which Roland will drop in the chat. But that is where I will close this out and end our screen share and our recording. Thank you for listening. Talk to you next time.